The Hutt Valley Services Committee terms and references, the chair alternates annually between the two councils, and the change takes place at the final meeting of each year. So I would like to thank Councillor Stallinger for his support last year in 2024 as the co-chair. I will see the remainder of this triennium out as chair of this committee. So thanks, Tony. Stella. For housekeeping, can attendees please refer to the information on screen? They're just bringing it up now. On item 1 of this agenda, we've got apologies. There's no apologies, so we'll move past that. We have got a visitor, Councillor Karen Morgan, who's in the house, and she would like to have speaking rights with no voting rights. So I'll move that Councillor Morgan have speaking rights. Can I call for a seconder? We'll call Tony Stallinger as a seconder. All those in favour? I declare that carried. So we have no public forum today, so item 2 is checked off. And we can just declaration of interest register. Any elected members need to declare any conflicts, please let us know. Nope, on that one. We've moved on to item 4, which is the confirmation of the minutes. So we've got the unconfirmed minutes of the Hutt Valley Services Committee 22 November on page 4 of this agenda. Is there any questions or comments around that before we begin? Nope, I'll call for a mover. Councillor Stallinger, and a seconder. Let's worship the Mayor. You weren't there, sorry. Councillor Dyer. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, is there any debate on the motion? Nope, all those in favour? All those against? I'll declare that carried. So we'll move on straight on to item 5. We've got the wastewater joint venture update. It's page 15 of your agenda. A report from the strategy advisor through the Director of Environmental and Sustainability, Hutt Valley. Is there any updates for this report before we begin?
Kia ora tātou. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just got one thing to point out, but I'm going to hand over to Jeremy, who's going to give a few updates in terms of the specific matters that are mentioned within the report. The only thing that I was going to refer to was Appendix B. We have pulled this together with as much information as we can in one appendix to try and meet the requirements of the committee in terms of the information you'd like to have. So if there's any feedback in terms of what is presented in this appendix, we'd be pleased to hear if there's any other further information that you'd like. But other than that, I'll pass over to Jeremy.
Thanks, Bruce, and good morning, everyone. So I'm pleased to report that since presenting the report, the effluent quality parameters have returned within compliance limits, except for the longer run measure for the 80th percentile for faecal coliforms. This is expected to come into compliance by around the end of the month. Issues with odour following the fire event in August have also subsided, with 6 complaints recorded in February, none of which were assessed as being offensive or objectionable by the Regional Council. We are concerned over the condition of the milli-screen equipment and are providing additional maintenance to keep these functioning until the renewal program is completed. 2 of the primary settling tanks have been renewed, as pointed out in the report. Also, all the mechanical parts for both the remaining tanks renewals are on site, and the 3rd renewal is currently underway and is expected to be completed in the next couple of weeks. The team are focused on the maintenance of the dryer at the moment to ensure we are as reliable as possible, to get as reliable as possible service from the unit until it is replaced. We continue to work with the equipment supplier and to ensure we're doing all that we can to minimise breakdowns. Violda are actually engaging a project manager to be focused on this work. So yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Jeremy. Is there any questions? Sure, I've forgotten your name. Sorry, Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora, it's all right. I have days like that too. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the work on this. Good to see that we're making some progress with the backup power supply project. Just wondering, have we looked at the lifespan costs of using generators versus batteries? I know I've brought up the sustainability side of things before, with the potential of using batteries and solar on this system. But yeah, have we looked at the lifespan costs and what type of time frame are we looking at in terms of covering for the outages, length of supply needed?
I can't say whether we've actually looked at it, but I do have an electrical background, and the amount of power required by these units to to meet supply would just be astronomical. The size of the battery bank would be beyond what would be economic. I'm absolutely sure of that. Solar, you wouldn't have enough area on the site, even if you covered the entire site with solar panels to meet the power requirements. So I don't believe it's been looked at in any depth, but very much doubt the high power use required would be even close to what you get from that type of arrangement.
Thank you.
With regard to life cycle costs, they're in use for relatively low hours per year, so the operating cost is relatively low compared to the capital cost.
A subsequent, Councillor Parkin?
Yeah, just out of interest, what type of size of power are we actually looking at for this then?
I'd have to come back to you with that, sorry.
Sorry, are you in a position to just go back direct to the councillor, or would you?
I can come back via Bruce, yeah. Cool.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
Morning, and thanks for the report. It's really good to see the number of renewal projects completed and underway. So my question relates to that. Are all of the renewal projects budgeted for within the budget? Ones completed and to come?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. Councillor Carson?
Thank you. A couple of questions. First of all, in Appendix 1, which has the list of the projects, I thought I asked at the last committee meeting that we have some dollar figures or budgets alongside those projects, and I'm wondering why it hasn't happened for this meeting, please.
I think the dollar figures are shown in Appendix 2 against those projects. So Appendix 1 looks at the risk element for the various activities, and Appendix 2 is trying to pull together all of that information that you've requested, including the financials.
Right. Unfortunately, I don't have Appendix 2, so I'll park that one. Barber Grove, thanks for all the words in the summary report, but this settling of the overruns has been going on for 4 or 5 months now, and just when are we going to have a final figure for the overruns and a final figure for the final cost, and why is it taking such a long time? And for the next meeting, can we please have a list showing the items of the Barber Grove project with the original budget, the new budget of 31.5 and the final costs showing where the variances are, please?
We can do that, certainly. My understanding is that we've closed that project out and reported on that at a previous meeting. I don't even think that Barber Grove was mentioned in the report itself.
Is there any other questions from other councillors? Councillor Dyer?
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, thank you so much for your work on the odour issues over the summer break. I know the community has put up with it, but they've been really supportive of the work you've been doing and the testing of the filter, and I know it's gone a very long way. And just the explanation behind it, I think, has gone a long way for us. I've got a few questions from the paper. The first one was, it mentions that there was a Ropu hui on the 13th of February. This is regarding the work down at Seaview for the outfall pipe. Just wonder if you could provide any sort of brief update on that meeting. Obviously, this paper came out before that meeting, but the meeting's now taken place.
Well, the focus of the 13th February was really just going around those objectives, the strategic objectives, and so they were worked through, and the project team are currently working on the long list before it gets to a short list, before it goes to preferred.
And is there a rough expected timeline of when we could expect to see sort of the long list of options? And
Imagine we can present something at the next committee meeting on that long list of options process.
awesome,
Details.
thank you. And then there was mention of failure of the outfall pump station 2 months ago, and that the root cause was still being investigated. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, the team have looked into it, but aren't unable to replicate the fault. So that equipment is set up to be very sensitive in order to protect the pipeline. So yeah, we just haven't been able to replicate the fault. So we're just keeping a watch on it, really. So no updates, sorry.
Okay, thank you. And then the GWRC abatement notice, are all the conditions sort of satisfied from that? Is that completely closed off now, or is there still some parts of it?
Yes, they have been now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a multi-stage, so, but yeah, we're where we are, yeah, in the timeline.
So if I could just add to that, so the first stage is completed. The second stage, we have a requirement at the moment to complete those works by the beginning of December this year. However, we will have a better understanding of the timeline and program of works once the tenders have been awarded, which are not expected till April. And so we have been given the okay to go back to the regional council if it's shown that the work is not able to be completed in that timeline, to review that deadline again.
And the second stage, that's like the deducting of the other smelly areas into the BIF. Yeah, cool. Awesome, thank you. And then I've got two similar-ish questions. One's around the dryer renewal work. It sort of says that we can do this within existing budgets. Are we using that existing budget that's earmarked for the full replacement, or is this within other budgets?
No, this is within the renewals, just to keep that dryer, ticking along. So no, it's outside of the major replacement.
And obviously it says in the report that you're bringing forward the dryer replacement, which is awesome. I assume it's still worthwhile spending, which it doesn't say yet, but I'm assuming significant money to renew the bits that are failing if we're going to fully replace it earlier ahead of schedule. It's still worth doing those.
Yeah, absolutely. The dryer is at the end of its life, and if it breaks down, then we really struggle to control the biology of the plant. We need to remove as much solids as we can in order to remain balanced in the process. When it becomes unbalanced, that's when we have the odour issues. So ensuring reliability of that equipment is a very strong focus of my team, especially after recent events that we, I'm sure is on everyone's mind. So yeah, absolutely, definitely value on that.
And then there's some question about the Burdens Gate pipeline. It says that we've done Burdens Gate out to the outfall end, and we know the condition and we're going to get on with that work, but we don't know the first half of the pipe. If we do that assessment and it's actually much worse than we thought, have we kind of wasted money on getting on with those other works before we know the full extent of the full pipe, noting that we are going to be renewing that full pipeline sometime in the future?
Well, those inspections are related to particularly the valves that come off the pipe, and you'll recall that one of those valves failed back in August last year, and so the focus of the work's on those the side bits off the pipe. So it's the replacement, similar, even longer period than the dryer. Replacement of that pipe will be quite a few years away, so keeping it maintained to be as effective as possible is still important and still worthwhile.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
I guess, sorry, just add, that's in order so that we can service the pipe, so when we have failures, so yeah, absolutely.
Councillor Dyer, did you want your first question put on as a work stream for forward work? Sure. Okay. Is there any other comments or questions from our panel? No? Oh. Sorry, shuffling my papers. So I'll move that the committee notes the information in the report titled Wastewater Joint Venture, dated 1 November to 31st January 25. And I call for a seconder. Councillor Newell. Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Thanks, gents. So item number 6 on our agenda today is the update from Silverstream Landfill and Resource Recovery. It's on page 33 of your agenda. We've got the directors here to answer any of our questions. Is there any update available today before you begin?
Kia ora koutou. Only that I updated the dashboard as requested at the last meeting, just to provide a little more clarity on the quality monitoring of the in the water section there. So if you look at the dashboard, it's just to clarify the instances of monitoring. And that if you look across, I'm on page 41 of the agenda. When it mentions the individual months across the quarter, there are four water quality inspections, visual inspections in each month. And so when one of those instances exceeds the consent conditions, it's recorded in that month. So hopefully that's clearing up that ambiguity. But happy to continue to tweak this dashboard if that's helpful.
Thank you. Have any questions? Councillor Shaw.
My question relates to paragraph 15, where it indicates that there's a possibility of sludge being an ongoing thing to go up to the Silverstream tip. Is there the potential for an odour problem developing in Stokes Valley and or Silverstream, or is that catered for in your works?
Yes, that definitely increases the risk of odour being detected outside of the landfill site. We've got pretty tight management controls on sludge when it does come in, with making sure that it's disposed of in a way that minimises odour. We did have an odour complaint that could have been linked to sludge disposal around Christmas time, or just before Christmas. It definitely is something that we have to tightly manage when we're receiving undried sludge from the plant.
Just following on from that, I assume that when we have to close down and rebuild dryers and things like that, there'll be times that there'll be a larger inflow of sludge to the plant. And I have had quite a conversation around the mitigation sort of plans that you guys have in place. And I'm not scared of those, but will it affect our what do you call it, usable space, the airspace, the volume, or will it not change the volume, just the type?
Yeah, it doesn't have a meaningful effect on airspace because it's so water heavy. So most of the actual mass just drains out as leachate. We do have to dispose of it in the waste. So pits are basically dug in fresh waste, and then it's sort of disposed of layered up with cover in a pit to keep the material covered as soon as it's dumped at the site. But no, airspace is not a major consideration for sludge.
Thank you. Did you have a further question, Councillor Shaw?
Sorry, I do have another question. That's in regards to paragraph 21, Kingsley Street track, where some residents or people have been seen up there quite regularly. I know there's signs around that particular area, but have you actually communicated through community pages as well, just to keep people away from that area?
Yeah, we've done a small amount. We probably need to do a little bit more. This week, the contractors are up there improving the fencing and making better signs, bigger signs, extending the fence out into the bush line. We're doing everything we can to keep people out of there. But I can check in on the comms that we're doing across some of those channels just to make sure that's thorough enough. Yeah, it's an ongoing problem. It's quite a high risk if people are wandering around. We have people walking their dogs with their headphones on, they can't hear the 40-ton truck coming down behind them. It's not safe, so we need to keep people out of there.
Just for clarification, the people will be climbing a fence to get into that area though?
Well, there'll be sort of a bit of minor bush bashing, yeah, to get around a fence, or, yeah, climbing a fence, yeah.
No, thank you. Is there any further questions? Councillor Parkin?
Kia ora, through you, Chair. What's happening with the hard beach timber? It's noted that it's been milled and stored for drying. What's the time frame on that drying, and then how are we using it?
So it's probably going to take a couple of years to fully season, because it's quite hard and it's quite fresh. So we're drying it. We'll be stacking it out at Wainui closed landfill from next week, and some of it will go in some containers out there. Some of it will be under tarps. We're open to projects, so the idea was to recover the resource, and then over time it can be used in council projects. So whether that's a building project or a landscaping project, but that's not the waste team's department, so we're keen to work with other parts of council, both Hutt City and Up Hutt City Council, for projects that could utilise the timber.
Thank you. That's informative. Is there any further questions? Everybody's dodging it today. Well, I'll move that the committee notes the information in the report, titled Update of Silverstream Landfill and Resource Recovery. Can I call for a seconder? Councillor Carson. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that motion carried. Thank you. So item 7, we've got the Akatara Cemetery update. It's on page 41 of the agenda. We've also got an additional page which you've all been circulated, so that Brett's tabled for this meeting. No, cool. Is there an update on our report, please, sir?
Yes, just a couple of things. As you'll read, the Hutt City Council met on the 25th, I think it was, and discussed some of the issues regarding the setting of fees and maintaining the investment in Akatara Cemetery, including the establishment of a cemetery in its own jurisdiction. And you'll see that they resolved to continue with the current strategy, and the issues would be dealt with as matter of part of the new long-term plan. Our fees and charges, council ones, have been reviewed, and they will be increased by about 3%. The rationale, the comparison of fees between the two councils, they weren't terribly far apart. There were one or two that were a bit different, and there is room to work with Hutt City officers to look at aligning some of those, but I'm just not sure how that's going to happen, whether ours go down, theirs goes up, and how that affects the ratio of recovery through user pays. Just the other little update I'd like to give you is the resource consent that was submitted to the Regional Council on the 14th of February. They have since come back on the about 25th and requested more information on a number of matters. We have till the 19th of this month for our consultants to respond to that, and hopefully the responses will satisfy Greater Wellington and we'll be able to move on with it. There's a possibility it could cause issues with regard to extra work that we need to do with regard to maybe stormwater management or, erosion control. So we just have to take that as it comes.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you for the report. I'm just looking here at page 44, paragraph 16, and there's a reference to the northern boundary of the cemetery. I assume that's stage 3. and that a previous owner has taken down a fence and we need to look at removing something, and also an offal pit located on cemetery land. I find that really offensive. So can we just make sure that that's reported back to know that that's really, they've been cleared?
Yes, I have been in discussion with the council of Hutt City officers, and yeah, nothing's progressed. We've been aware of this for quite some time. The fence, currently, there's still access into that cemetery site from the top end, vehicle access. We're trying to prevent that. The ex-leasee, it's not good. I think there was talk about council funding the fence, but I think we'll go back and look at, under the Fencing Act, they'll have to contribute to it, but he has a responsibility to replace it and return the land to the original condition. So yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
Could I just ask that you have a look into what powers we have to enforce that? Can you have a look into any powers that we have to enforce that fence be reinstated? And if, I mean, it might be that there isn't any, but if you can let us know.
Yeah, will do. Yeah.
Councillor Shaw.
And sorry, another question. There's a 42-year projected lifespan of the Akataroa Cemetery, and I see the estimated cost for stage 3 is 1.15. So is that amount, is stage 3 needed for the 42-year projected lifespan, the completion of stage 3?
The stage 3, we're doing stage 1 and 2 now, yes, and stage 3 may come at a later stage. Yeah.
Sorry, I think my question is, do we need the completion of stage 3, which we don't have in the current budget, to meet the 42-year projected lifespan?
I'm not 100% sure on that. You could be right, that could be the case, but can I clarify that? At a later stage, can I clarify it? Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora. So with that breakdown, while you're doing it, it would be useful to know how much lifespan each of those sections give us. It's part of the same work that you'd be doing, so might as well get all of it done at the same time. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly have that information, but I don't have it in my head at the moment.
While we're talking on growth and future of cemeteries around, thank you, Councillor Shaw, for bringing it up. We were having a conversation in our pre-meeting around development contributions and why they aren't loaded in as a cemetery cost. As a growth city, we're both growing, and I'd just like to raise it at this forum, that I think that we need to explore the idea of having a development contribution levy put into our future developments. It's an ongoing cost that we're paying for. Trying to find land is pretty hard as we go. Every time we have a conversation around it, there isn't any available land. The way to get available land is when we develop, when we plan new areas. Maybe it's something that we need to look into. I see a lot of nodding. I'm hoping it just gets into the minutes and gets picked up by who needs to pick it up. Is there any other questions or comments around this? No, thank you, Brett. I was just going to move it myself, but thank you, Councillor Carson, for moving the report. Can I call for a seconder? His Worship the Mayor seconds that. Is there any debate on the motion? All those in favour? Ayes against? So I declare that motion carried. Thank you. I thought you might get a hard time. So we've got the Hutt Valley Services Committee Forward Work Programme, page 46 of the agenda. Is there any updates on any of the action items, please? Any questions on the items? This might be a really quick meeting this week. Any items for discussion or to add to the work programme? Then I'll move that we receive the work programme and call for a seconder. Councillor Newell, thank you. Any debate? Then all those in favour? Those against? I'll declare that carried. And I'll call the meeting at 10 a.m. Thank you very much for all in attendance.